Did you know that children who require special help for stutters or other speech problems do not have those costs covered by medical insurance? That's why there is a proposed state bill that would guarantee insurance coverage for speech therapy.
Patsy McMillan and Katie Hartman from the Children's Institute are here to share more about the positive impact of speech therapy. Hi, ladies. How are you?
Hi, we're good.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about a speech language pathologist for people who are not familiar with what that is.
Sure. So in speech language pathology, we assess a variety of things and we treat them as well. So anything from communication disorders, like the typical R's or S's that you hear about a lot for articulation, all the way to feeding and swallowing disorders. We work with stuttering, we work with language, so both understanding, which we call receptive language, as well as expressive language, how we use the different parts of our language. So it's a really broad area that we cover.
I think a lot of people will be surprised to know that insurance does not cover this because communication is at its core what we do. So I hope to see that that goes through. How can people get help? I mean, I imagine that it can be expensive to have someone come in and offer assistance to your child.
Sure. So some insurances cover, some don't. We're fighting more and more every day to get those things covered. It's taking more of the therapist's time to justify it as medically necessary to have it covered. There are a lot of kids on state assistance for that. And then we do have parents who pay out of pocket as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Katie, for someone, a mom sitting at home or a dad, how do you know when your child needs help with speech therapy? Because I've had a lot of friends who have gone through this and they just really weren't sure if there was something wrong or if it was just perfectly normal.
So a lot of times we tell parents to, look at what the guidelines are from their pediatrician. They'll talk to them and say, do you think there's something wrong? Because another medical professional. But when in doubt, it's always better to just do an evaluation and have one of us take a look. If you're hearing things, a young kid who isn't making any sounds, or a preschooler who says single words but isn't putting them into phrases or sentences, it would be better to go ahead and get it checked out.
Yeah, because what all do you help with? Because I do think of the typical growth with a child where the R's and S's, as you mentioned, Patsy, those can be really difficult for kids to really get those sounds out. So what all does it entail? Is it stutters, pronunciation? What all are we looking for?
All of that and more.
And more.
So really there's kids who can speak and can be understood but just don't sound quite right. And then there's kids who have, any limit of a couple of words at a time, or maybe just a couple of words that they repeat frequently and not an actual conversation. Some people don't use their voice and use a talking device, some kind of an AAC system to help them produce language and make requests.
Yeah. And what does this process look like? Because I would think that this would be pretty scary for a parent to think that their child has a problem. Is this something that can be resolved in, let's say, 6 months, or is this something that could last for the rest of their life?
It really depends on the severity and what their skills are and what their strengths are, and we'd like to build on their strengths to help them make as much progress as quickly as they can.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned kind of the medical findings behind it. Is there any reasoning why some kids may develop language differently or communicate in a different way and may need the assistance? Is there something at its core? I mean, I know sometimes with hearing impairment, that can also affect speech, but are there other reasons why this may happen?
There are a lot of medical reasons that it can happen. Many syndromes come along with a communication and or a swallowing disorder. Something like a brain injury, often you'll be working on communication as well as other cognitive processes, which all fall in our scope, like attention and memory and those kinds of things.
Wonderful.
So a lot of different, and sometimes the answer, and this is really hard for the parents, sometimes the answer is we don't know.
Right.
For whatever reason, development was interrupted, and then we just need to come around and get them back on track.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, really great information. I'm sure you've helped a lot of parents at home, figure things out. How do parents get in touch with you?
So they can call the Institute, our main number. They can get on the website. Either way is fine. So for outpatient services, they call and they get an appointment. We'll get a prescription from their doctor and they go through the evaluation process We also have service lines that do early intervention, so we go into the homes in those cases and treat birth to 3, and in those cases you contact the Alliance for Infants and Toddlers and again start the evaluation process. It all starts there.
Patsy and Katie, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate good information for sure.
If you are interested in services offered by the Children's Institute of Pittsburgh, we are going to have more information on our website, kdka.com/talkpittsburgh.
We had a taste of fall weather earlier this week, but that's after a pretty hot summer. Mary, we have some good questions for you about the heat, actually.
I think everyone's wondering about the 90s and a couple other things because we've had a lot of storms around, so I don't want to give too much away, but I am answering your questions and I can't wait. So I'll be right back for your questions coming up.